Hey guys, I just want to make a video real quick. It's about 1 a.m. and usually I don't make videos about things that are this timely. Usually I comment on things that happened 6 months ago, but since I consider this kind of an urgent issue, I did want to make a video and share my thoughts on it. And that is basically the state of Classic WoW now that Phase 2 has come out. And I think that it's safe to say that people are dissatisfied with the way Classic WoW Phase 2 has come out, or at least a lot of people are, for a number of different reasons, a huge myriad of reasons, and I want to talk about those, some of the solutions that I've thought of and that other people have thought of, and generally what the concerns are, and just kind of my take on the whole situation. So Phase 2 came out yesterday, or for some of you guys watching a video the day before, and for my guild and for me on day one, it was pretty enjoyable. I had a good time. We had everybody meet up at the World Bosses, and we were just hanging out. We had some pretty cool PvP skirmishes, won a few battles, lost a few battles. Overall, pretty good time. Well, then a few hours later, I start reading more forum threads after my stream, and I start seeing that pretty much every single flight master is being camped by a raid full of, according to everybody that's complaining about it on the forums, the opposite faction. Generally the Horde, but there are some servers that have Dominant Alliance as well, but this is mostly a Horde thing. But it's primarily just an opposite faction problem. And what ends up happening to a lot of people is they're like flying in on their level 55 or they're 60, fully geared out with Molten Core gear, best in slot, maybe even have Sulfuras. And it doesn't fucking matter because the moment that you land, you're gonna get fucking apeshit ninja fucked by 10 different people. There's no real way you can outplay that or do anything about it, and it's just, you know, tough shit. And this is kind of what a lot of people expected to see happen whenever Phase 2 came out, especially people that played on the private server scene, because this seemed to be kind of like the meta over there, and of course a lot of people are kind of adapting the meta from private servers into Classic WoW. I think this is primarily Blizzard's fault for letting this happen, and Blizzard finds themselves in really kind of an odd situation for this, because the problem that they have is that realistically, there would be no way for them to introduce servers nowadays that had the same populations that the servers in Vanilla WoW did. And I'll be referring to Vanilla WoW as, you know, 2004 to 2006 or 2007 officially. And if you want to count the Burning Crusade pre-patch, it's all irrelevant though. And Classic, of course, is the current game as we know, Classic WoW. So in Vanilla WoW, for example, you had server population caps of 3,000 or I think 4,000, 2,000 to 4,000 people is pretty much where a lot of the server caps were estimated at. And even Blizzard has admitted that a lot of the server caps right now or server sizes right now are vastly larger than what they were in vanilla. And the problem with that is that while you increase the population of a server by, let's say, double, and that's a very conservative estimate, the number of flight masters stays the same. There's still only one flight master in Thorium Point. There's still only one flight master in Burning Steppes, for example. And the problem with that is that while there were maybe a couple of people camping a flight master in Vanilla WoW, now there's 4 times as many. Now there's 5 times as many, especially because the meta for playing Classic WoW is much different than the meta for playing Vanilla WoW. During Vanilla WoW, people didn't really have the same amount of knowledge and experience and play testing and theory crafting that they do now. So whenever you look at the way that somebody's going to play the game nowadays, you're seeing, tons of these guilds clearing Molten Core. It's almost commonplace. It would be, it's odd for a guild not to have cleared Molten Core if they're a raiding guild. And during Classic or during Vanilla WoW, that was completely the opposite. And, I think during the honor system, it was almost unheard of still at that point. So I think a lot of the problems that people kind of have is that you're basically looking at this world that Blizzard's designed for, let's say, 3,000 or 2,000 to 4,000 people to be actively interfacing with. And then you're taking that world and you're giving it to 12,000 people and you're saying, hey, have the same experience as you did with 2. And it's clearly not going to happen. I think that's basically the crux of the issue with a lot of the Flight Master camping and a lot of the just general hotspot camping. Now, in terms of the overpopulation, and that's, by the way, a problem that Blizzard can't really solve. That's something that they solved with layering, and it absolutely did solve that problem, but layering had to go away eventually. It's not really what Classic was. People don't really want layering, so it's not a surprise that Blizzard got rid of it, but there is also this unintended consequence that whenever you have a removal of layering, you're basically cutting all of the resources on the server in half, and whenever those resources are Flight Masters, and those resources are Black Lotus and whatever else, you're going to double their value and also double the value that somebody gets from killing one of those things. So that's, of course, why they did that for world bosses, but there also are, of course, unintended side effects, and I think this is one of them. Now, some people have suggested to make Flight Masters dishonorable kills, and I personally don't think this is going to solve any problem. It's not going to do anything, and it also is a fundamental change to the game. And as somebody who's always wanted to have the game, have like no changes. And of course, I think that this is always, with anybody who has no changes and is in any degree realistic, I believe, probably knows that there are a number of things that they would kind of want to see changed, but the idea of no changes is, I think, a philosophy that a lot of people can get behind. So I don't really want to debate the little merits and nuances of that, but what I do want to say is, while Flight Masters being dishonorable kills could be a disincentive for some people, I don't necessarily think that it's going to solve the problem, and I also think that it is a fundamental change to the game. So if Blizzard does anything else, I'd like to see them exhaust every other option to solve this problem before they even consider making Flight Masters a dishonorable kill. I don't think that should happen, unless it's a last resort, beyond a last resort. And the next thing, obviously, that people have suggested is faction-specific queues, which means that if you are the less populated faction, you're able to queue into the server faster, and basically the server simulates a certain degree of parity between the factions by allowing people that are the underpopulated faction to queue in faster. So, for example, if you have a queue of 3,000 people, and basically 2,000 of those people are Horde and 1,000 are Alliance, the Alliance have a faster queue and the Horde don't really have as quick of a queue, and that kind of simulates some sort of artificial parity with the servers in between the two factions. Now, I do think this is potentially a very good idea. The only concern that I have is that it's a short-term solution and it doesn't actually address the problem fundamentally, because the servers are going to get to a point, and some servers already are at this point, where there aren't any queues to begin with. So unless you're going to basically artificially add a queue to prevent people from logging in at all, I don't really see this as an issue. I don't see this as a good thing. And so if you are let's say you're the overpopulated faction, for example, and you're adding in a queue and it's like a 4-to-1 thing, you're going to have people sitting in a queue for 2 hours just because it's an artificial thing. So I don't know if that would really be a good thing for Blizzard to do, but it's something that I think that they should look into. It's probably the best idea that I've heard, but I don't know. Another thing that a lot of people have discussed, and this is also something that's always been a conversation, is the whole, PvP happened on a PvP server. And I think this is something that 9 times out of 10, 99 times out of 100, this is very, very accurate. I mean, people complain about PvP all the time. I mean, this has always happened. I do think that there is a certain degree of merit to this, because it's kind of an artificial problem that Blizzard's created by overpopulating the servers and having so many people competing in such a small area over such a small amount of resources, because of course you're not really going to have the same emphasis that people would put on Silithus, for example, or the same emphasis people would put on Eastern Plaguelands, for example, for Naxxramas and AQ. So, or even Stranglethorn Vale with ZG. So you have this huge consolidation of people all around Blackrock Mountain and all around, let's say, South Shore and Terran Mill, because they have nothing better to do. And if it was later in the phases, I don't think that's really what's going to happen as much. But there's also been another, I guess, let me finish my thought here, is that while it is PvP on a PvP server, I don't really think that a lot of people are going to, is it really PvP if you just fly in and you die to 10 people, technically, yeah, it is technically PvP. And Retail WoW is technically an MMO. But that's not really what it is it? And the fact is that people that are playing that, they load in and, you know, they're trying to spend, like, for example, you know, I've spent, I think, probably I was trying to get to like Blackrock Mountain or something on my rogue. It took me like 35 minutes to go from Thorium Point all the way over to Blackrock Mountain because I would just get killed every single time I'd res and everything. And for me, that's not really a big deal. It's like, okay, I'm just watching a YouTube video on the other monitor. Is it annoying? Yeah, of course it's annoying. But at the same time, I'm not really going to get bent out of shape about this. But the problem is that a lot of other people, I think, are. And, you know, for every single person like me that has a lot of free time, there are going to be a lot of other people that don't. And the fact is, with Classic WoW, you already have, you know, you have like the dungeons that are going to take a long time. So like, let's look at like UBRS, for example. If you're going to spend like an hour to make your group for UBRS, I'm lucky enough that, you know, I'm basically the Lich King of the server. And instead of, you know, containing all of the Scourge, I contain all of the Spurgs. I've even got the shirt on right here. I bought this from the Blizzard store. It's very nice. And so I'm very lucky. I can find a group quickly. And it's a great thing. But the problem with that is that other people are not that lucky. What takes me 5 minutes or 10 minutes to do takes somebody else an hour. So a person takes an hour to get there, takes an hour to do the dungeon, add on, you know, 30 minutes, 45 minutes of travel time because of PvP that they don't really want to do. You know, that's going to be, you know, 3 hours investment. And, you know, anybody that's trying to level up their character in a contested zone, I think that a lot of people right now, especially people that are still leveling, are really, you know, asking themselves the question, what the fuck am I doing with my time? You know, if you can maybe complete maybe one quest an hour, your leveling time has been cut in half. You're just super, super slow. You have limited time to begin with. That's why you're not 60 anyway. I can see this being a really, really detrimental thing for the game and actually very harmful for a lot of, you know, semi-casual players and just people that don't want to be camped every single moment. I think that while people do roll on a PvP server because they enjoy world PvP, I think that most reasonable people can draw a distinction between, you know, wanting to play PvP and be on a PvP server and engage in world PvP sometimes, between that and, you know, every single flight master being camped by a raid full of the opposing faction. I think this is a really big problem, and Blizzard needs to deal with it, like, immediately. I think that probably adding Battlegrounds might help. I don't think it's really going to solve the problem. Some people think that it will. I don't think that it will, because I'm going to be honest with you guys. I think that a lot of the people that are sitting there camping the flight masters, they're not doing it for honor. They're not doing it for honor at all. But I guess Battlegrounds will come out eventually, and time will tell. It will definitely lower it, though. That's to be certain. So there's adding Battlegrounds. I think that would be a solution. I think also adding in faction-specific transfers would help out a lot. And, you know, allowing people that are on servers that are, you know, very imbalanced. Like anything over, I'd say 60-40 is very imbalanced, especially from the perception of a player. And, I mean, there are people that are on servers that are 50-50 that are like, man, dude, we're outnumbered 3-1, dude, this sucks. So, of course, that's going to happen. But what I really think that they should do is probably just add in the faction-specific transfers, and that would probably give people an option to move between the servers and try to populate and, you know, even out these imbalances. Because I think if Blizzard doesn't do this very soon, people are going to get really tired and really bored of having, you know, it's odd because it's a new type of gameplay, like World PvP, and it's a new system and everything. But I feel like for a lot of people, it's actually narrowed the game down a lot. And it's basically made every activity into World PvP. And while that's something that's enjoyable for some people, I think for almost everyone, it gets old quite quickly. So, and I haven't even touched on the server issues. I don't have time for that. My video is about to end. But I wanted to make this video and talk to you guys about the issues, and I think it's really important that Blizzard deals with this as soon as possible. So hopefully people can, I don't know, like, share the video, whatever. but at least share the ideas and try to come up with a solution, because I think that it needs to happen a lot sooner than later. Anyway, that's pretty much all I've got. So until next time, peace.